The design of the Moto Edge 30 is pretty standard for a Motorola phone. In fact, it looks basically the same as its predecessor, just a little bit more rounded. I am a really big fan of the metallic light blue color though, a nice change from the darker colorways Motorola usually sticks to. There's also a case in the box as usual if you want to protect this beauty. The phone is really thin at 6.7mm and has very solid build quality for a change, with buttons that feel nice and stiff. This is something I already noticed on the Edge 30 Pro and a good departure from the rattly buttons that used to plague these phones in the past. What is also nice is that stereo speakers have made a comeback. On the front you have slim uniform bezels surrounding the 6.5-inch 1080p OLED panel that runs at 144Hz. It's a super smooth and sharp screen that's just a joy to use, no complaints there. Except maybe for the brightness. It's bright enough to be viewed outdoors, but in direct sunlight you do notice a difference to other phones. The chip inside the Edge 30 is the exact same Snapdragon 778G we saw in the Edge 20 last year. In my eyes though, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It keeps the phone running smoothly without any hiccups, showing Samsung that a chip of this class can in fact handle Android 12 smoothly. Who would have thought? With 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, the Edge 30 definitely has some room to spare. And paired with stock Android and the 144Hz display, this phone feels just as fast as a flagship device. Speaking of stock Android, Motorola's take on it continues to be one of my favorites. It's very close to what you would find on a Pixel. There are many customization options of course, and Motorola's smart gestures and all of the extra features are consolidated into one single easy-to-use app. Smart additions without any unnecessary clutter. What is a bit unfortunate is that the Edge 30 only supports Ready 4, Motorola's DeX equivalent desktop interface, over a wireless connection and not by just plugging it up to a monitor via the USB-C port. That makes this feature much less useful in my opinion. If you want to know more about this actually really useful piece of software, you can check out my Moto Edge 30 Pro review where I talk about it in more detail. With two 50-megapixel cameras and a third one you can safely ignore, the Edge 30 has the same camera setup as its Pro counterpart. That however still means it's a rather subpar camera even for the price. In good light you can get some really nice shots out of it that are sharp and have good dynamic range and color. But especially with landscape shots, it does tend to overexpose quite a bit, and the pictures also sometimes take on a rather heavily sharpened look. This isn't always the case, but it just isn't consistently good. The ultra-wide camera is definitely softer and also has worse dynamic range than the main one. The selfie camera especially is also very soft, almost looking like someone worked on the image with watercolors. The night mode on the other hand is actually not that bad. The pictures look very sharp and bright at first glance, though they do start to look a bit muddy if you zoom in, and the colors are also a bit off. But for the price, this is serviceable. The video quality is okay, the focus is fast but does pulse a bit, and the stabilization is also a bit wobbly. Overall, this camera isn't something you buy this phone for, but it also isn't a deal breaker. It's just fine. Battery life on the Edge 30 is really good despite it being so thin. I have no problem getting about a day and a half on battery. It's not quite a 2-day phone, but what matters is that it should get you through longer days without needing to recharge without a problem. And when it does come to it, it will also recharge very fast. With its 33-watt fast charging, you can charge about 40% in just 15 minutes. So in half an hour in the morning, you should have more than enough juice for the whole day. And because it's just USB PD, it also works with any charger and not just the one in the box. Yes, there is actually still a charger in the box. For 450 euros, this is a really solid phone. They lowered the price compared to the Edge 20 while fixing a lot of the small compromises that phone made. It has great build quality with a modern design and brings back stereo speakers. The 144Hz display in combination with stock Android makes it feel super smooth, charging is fast and the battery life is very good too. The Edge 30 might not stand out when judging by the specs, but the user experience is so good that those don't really matter. This phone has got it where it counts and is, I think, a very well-rounded package.